Is it okay?
Thank you so much. So you are now live and you may begin whenever you are ready.
Okay. Thank you, co-chairs, and hello everyone. Hope you're doing well. I am Mufassir Rashid from University of Dhaka, and my research title is Corona Effect on South Asian Politics, Diminishing Geopolitics and the Inception of Geoeconomics. This research is highly qualitative in nature and is based on secondary literature only. Geography has always played an obtrusive role in South Asian politics, whether it is India or Bangladesh or any other surrounding states. The complex demarcated areas left by the British Empire had been making rooms for geographical objective to gain economic and political imperatives. But since the 2008 financial crisis, the equation has started to change and states have started to change their strategies also to achieve political and economic imperatives. States are on the path of recovering from financial crisis at this moment and where the rise of China also played an important role. But COVID-19 has halted and added a new dimension to this crisis that compels the states to address economic security as national security. As a result, the discourse is also shifting from geopolitics to geoeconomics. This research is an attempt to understand the scenario and predict the future of South Asian politics using geoeconomics as a framework. The objective of this research is to theorize geoeconomics to understand its relevance in COVID-19 and post-COVID-19 era South Asian regional politics, and also to understand the shift in the foreign policy imperatives of South Asian states from geopolitics to geoeconomics due to COVID-19. In order to do so, this research will ask two questions. First, what are the effects of COVID-19 pandemic on South Asian states and how corona effect is shaping policy objectives for South Asian states in terms of geopolitics and geoeconomics? Though geopolitics need no introduction, I would like to clear that our understanding of geopolitics is highly military-centric. In conventional wisdom, geopolitics is the study of power and politics in terms of geography. According to Tuathile, geopolitics is a discourse about power politics with emphasis on state competition and geographical dimension of power. In the empirical field, geopolitics in, is the influence of geographical factors such as population, terrain, location, climate, etc. on power politics, and in return, power politics balancing geographical factors for the interest of states. Geopolitics focuses highly on military power and had its glorious days in Cold War era politics, as military power is very important at that time for all the parties. According to Edward Luttwak, logic of conflict was zero sum between the parties, which means from Luttwak's identifying geopolitics logic of conflict as zero sum, it becomes hard to resonate uh, with complex interdependence. After the end of Cold War, with liberalism on triumphant march, globalization and free market economy made the world more complex in terms of interdependence. In the age of economic liberalism, the importance of military power is gradually diminishing, and the method of commerce is displacing military method with capital in lieu of firepower and market penetration in lieu of bases. In such context, in 1990, Edward Luttwak introduced geoeconomics as a neologism. Geoeconomics is the use of economic tool to advance geopolitical objective of a state. Geoeconomics is the geostrategic use of economic power. In the empirical field, geoeconomics is the use of aid politics, sanctions, monetary policy in energy sector, commodity market, etc. Two relevant factors gave rise to the geoeconomics, the rise of state capitalism and the state-owned enterprises. Geoeconomics can be also understood by paraphrasing Clausewitz as war by commercial means. Commercial means. Geoeconomics now occupies a major part of security aspect of foreign policy at the current time, as even the Trump government now acknowledges the economic security as the national security. Practitioners also pointed out logically that BRI, Maritime Silk Route, AIIB, etc., are also reflections of Chinese economics. After 30 years of Luttwak's neologism, two broad traditions emerged, Luttwakian and non-Luttwakian. Luttwakian tradition identified decay of military power geopolitics as pervasive and addressed complex interdependence in the post-Cold War world. He distinguished geoeconomics from mercantilism based on modality, where, unlike geoeconomics, mercantilism is a subordinate modality. And Luttwak also emphasized on post-Cold War era politics. Political quarrels should be dealt with economic instruments. Luttwak also facilitated the roles of non-state actors such as MNC scientists, even individuals. In non-Luttwakian tradition, the scholars criticizes Luttwak actually for being too busy in distinguishing between geopolitics and geoeconomics. Rather, they developed coexistence. For them, in the empirical aspect, economic power and military power tends to influence each other in the quest of national interests. Later scholars also transcended geoeconomics beyond Luttwakian realism and connected geoeconomics with other theories of IR such as liberalism, constructivism, etc. They also acknowledge that geoeconomics has a limited scope and as it only deals with economic power politics from geographical and strategic viewpoint. Based on the scope, they also distance geoeconomics from international political economy. For them, geoeconomics allows states or blocks to create or expand by turning its economic power into military power in conflict situation. The relevance in regional politics. Geoeconomics is very relevant in regional politics as it serves as foreign policy strategy for the actors to practice power politics through economic means. Again, mobilizing economy also helps actors to create extra space in their regional politics. For instance, it also allows them to decrease their reliance on regional powerhouses for weaker states. For example, in many regions where states face dominant Chinese hegemony, they tend to create deep economic relations with USA to create US stake in regional politics. India's deepening its economic ties with USA to counter Chinese investment is also another example of relevance of geoeconomics in regional politics. The South Asian politics. The South Asian states are mostly middle income and lower income states. India serves as a powerhouse in the regional politics. India also shares borders with almost every state. In last decade, increasing Chinese stake and the rise of China also became an important factor in this region. As a result, the overall politics now revolves around Sino-Indian rivalry, which is the great game in this regional politics. There are also presence of nuclear stake in this regional politics as China, India, Pakistan are nuclear states. With the rise of China, there are evidence of Chinese geoeconomics practices in the last 10 years, such as BRI, soft loan, aid politics, etc. Presence of nuclear power and 2008 financial crisis compelled other states to seek for economic policies to counter the powerhouses. As a result, states are utilizing their economic power in terms of geography to create their space in power politics. As most of the states do not have ambition for power projection, unlike India and China, their ultimate objective are to ensure socio-economic interest. As a result, in this region, business rather than basis is popular. Therefore, powerhouse like India is also practicing geoeconomics since the last decade to counter Chinese geoeconomic strategies such as Kaladan multimodal road and the neighbor first policy, etc. Alliance building is also highly economic at present. There are visible complex interdependence among the states. For instance, the Scindia thesis that shows the interdependence among the rivers, though not very popular, but still it is relevant as it shows the interdependence. Such interdependence compels both India and China to abandon militarism in the long term, though militarism is still relevant in this region in short term. The COVID-19 has brought a massive blow to the economies. Amidst the pandemic, we saw the crisis in Galwan Valley between China and India took place, and the Nepal-India dispute over Lipu Lake also took place amidst the pandemic. The pandemic scenario in South Asia. South Asian states lack in their health sector very badly. When the COVID-19 or coronavirus pandemic started, these countries, like most other states, followed the policy of lockdown and quarantine. As a result of month-long lockdown and quarantine, their economy took heavy toll. Again, due to outbreak and closing of borders, states that used to rely upon remittance, tourism, and exports is also facing heavy reduction in economic size. As a result, stagnation is visible all over the South Asian economy, and the recession is going on. According to experts at Hudson, the economic impact of COVID-19 on South Asia results in a decline of economy. According to Hassan and Ishizaki, GDP growth with India projected to post only 1.5 to 3% growth. Bangladesh to 2 to 3%, Nepal to 1.5 to 3%, and Sri Lanka negative 3%, and Pakistan negative 2%. The projection for 2021 is not also very encouraging. Again, before the pandemic, all of these states had heavy number of unemployment. And when the pandemic situation came, it also enlarged the number to a new height. For instance, in India, under lockdown, the employment rose to 23.4%, where in urban area it is more than 30%. Other states are also suffering from the same fate. Hassan and Nishizaki's study also shows the poor health expenditure of South Asia, where it is only 3.5% of GDP, while the global standard is average 10.2%, which shows the very grim picture actually. In these states, many sectors are actually right now facing heavy crash due to the pandemic restrictions. Tourism in Nepal, for example, is now facing this collapse and due to no travel policy actually. And they need the help of UNDP to sustain this sector during this coronavirus. And right now UNDP is designing short-term employment for 5,000 people actually. And such realities suggest that for the South Asian states, battling and recovery from pandemic on their own is not possible. China's smart diplomacy, India's giving aid are also some cases that also fit such claim. And there are also events of aiding each other in this battling pandemic. For instance, Bangladesh aided assistance to Maldives, and we can also see the aid assistance and also discontents. For example, Maldives sent back 3,200 undocumented Bangladeshi workers amidst the pandemic. After the financial crisis in 2008, the emergence of economic security as prime foreign policy objective for smaller states in this region became visible. Ensuring economic security is ensuring national security, primarily for as smaller states are hardly capable of doing so by military means. Alliance building is also being influenced by such policies. For instance, Nepal and Oli regimes siding with China, where China placed 500 million US dollar to Nepal. Before Oli regime, Nepal used to balance the powerhouses, but now in Nepal, China prevails. Such change in foreign policy direction of Nepal shows that the smaller countries of South Asia are actually gradually putting more economic gain as their imperative in their foreign policy. And the effect of corona pandemic is surely accelerating this process. Now, the word accelerating, I bolded it in my presentation because it is important to understand, because this research deals with corona effect and which is also identifies the effect as accelerating till now. The shift in policy imperatives in the last decade. The global financial crisis of 2008 created link between economy and security. After that, the tendency to adopt inward outlook became popular around the globe, and as an effect of it, economic nationalism became very popular. For instance, the Brexit took place. South Asian states mostly depend on exporting finished products and remittance. Because of such trend of inward outlook, the market was shrinking and their offering cheap labor and products was diminishing gradually. As a result, economic security became a prime objective for them. They accepted and appreciated Chinese investment in this context. Thus, they also started geoeconomics as their policy. Such policies also helped them in counterbalancing their regional powerhouses. As a result, geoeconomics was also visible there side by side with geopolitics as a spontaneous activity, which is a visible shift from policy imperative in this region. Now, let's come to the key finding of our research, which is the diminishing geopolitics and the inception of geoeconomics. Pandemic prolonged and revitalized the recession that took place by global financial crisis and compelled smaller states to prioritize their economic interest. As a result, states that practiced geoeconomics in the last decade are increasing the practice, and states who didn't now are forced to practice. The role of geoeconomics is also prevails because geoeconomics also helps states to address their economic security and at the same time allow states to balance the behavior of their powerhouses. Again, these states need cooperation, and it is not possible for them to battle and recover from this pandemic. For the regional cooperation and alliance-based politics, geoeconomics surely provides better opportunities than geopolitics at this time. As a result, in battling and recovering from corona outbreak, geoeconomics will surely have important and extended role in South Asian politics, where geopolitics will lose its authority, at least to some extent. Sino-Indian rivalry is also going to be geoeconomic in the long term due to the complex interdependence among them. For instance, till 2020, China was India's top trade partner. At present, though India took USA to take over the role, the trading volume between India and China is still very high, which is around 20 billion at present. Such interdependence compels states to address military conflicts in the short term. For instance, the Doklam crisis, which became short term, and Galwan Valley crisis, which also will be short term. India also projected geoeconomic reaction to Galwan Valley crisis by banning apps and delaying Chinese products at the port. Such actions also influenced de-escalation, though the high altitude and harsh weather of Galwan is also not suitable for further escalation at this, as this research projected. Again, banning apps is easy, but replacing and countering Chinese market leading products in Indian domestic market is not easy, and it requires time. As a result, complex nature of Sino-Indian rivalry places geopolitics relevant for short term and geoeconomics for long term. Other South Asian states also do not afford military power geopolitics in the long term. Thus, in the regional politics, geoeconomics prevails. To conclude, I would like to say that the corona effect on South Asian politics brings disaster to economies, both low income and middle income. To survive from this, the states require alliance building and regional cooperation. In this context, geoeconomics allows states to pursue their interest and create extra space between Sino-Indian rivalry. As a result, in the coming days, geoeconomics will surely be a huge factor in the South Asian politics and in foreign policy analysis of this region. Here is the bibliography of my research, and for any questions, queries, discussion, and further engagement on geoeconomics and South Asian politics, you can contact with the author. And here is my email address. Thank you.